And finally, sorry, I don't know why I have that. Okay. I have gone through, as I said I was going to, and changed um, my label 4 to be expiration month because I'm changing below my name to be expiration month, and my ID to be expiration month. So what happens when you use a label for something? It actually goes to the element with that ID if you click on the label. So it makes sense, even if this label expiration date is really associated with both of these select boxes, it makes sense to the user if I click on expiration date that it would take me to this first box. So we're trying to help our users out by giving them these labels, not just that display what happens or what's going to be expected from them in the next input box, but also to give them a way to click around it, particularly for users that don't have great motor control. But even so, I would expect to be able to click on a label to be able to check a box, for example, and not have to go directly on that little button. Um, and you can still use the little circle, or and that's the case for all of these, that I should be able to click on the label and it will take me to that box. So we're doing that down here too, but because we have two boxes associated with it, two inputs associated with this one label, we're going to the first one. So we use the first one, and then we have all of these options values, January through December, and then the same thing with the expiration year. But I went ahead and changed mine to be, more reasonable years than what your exercise has in the book, and what it shows in the book, and also what it has in the solution. So obviously, nobody's going to be using a credit card that expired in 2015 at this point. So I went ahead and changed that. Excuse me. And then it goes on in 9 to say that we can format those lists and set the widths and also check the validity of the credit card number. I'm going to go ahead and skip and do that credit card number because I'm already in my HTML. So up here in this input that accepts the card number, I'm going to use this pattern attribute. And I'm going to say that the pattern has to meet the condition, and it tells me this backslash, I'm sorry, maybe that's the forward slash, the 16. And so essentially what that's saying is you have to have 16 digits to be acceptable here. There are a lot of ways that we could validate this, and we'll learn some more validation here in the coming weeks. But this is a start. This is to make sure that the user actually enters 16 digits, even if it's not, even if they wouldn't be valid credit card numbers. So we're doing some, in HTML5, we do some amount of validation. It's fairly simple validation, but we definitely do some validation. So let's go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to open up my CSS, which I closed earlier. I'm going to open up my ticket CSS and come do what it says here. ID selectors, and I think I called that, that X month. And for the month, I'm going to set the width to C7M. And the expiration year, I think that's how I wrote that. Expiration year to have a width of 5M. And that should move everything over so that it can be on the same line. So let's refresh that and look at it. It looks good. And I think that's all I had to do. For the submit your order field set, you just need to change the legends. Instead of submit your membership, go back to the HTML. Instead of submit your membership, we're going to change that to submit your order. and save and refresh, look back and forth, make sure it looks like the sample that we were given, and it looks to me like it does. And let's try validating. So we're entering some invalid data and just see what happens. So I'm going to start by just entering empty data. And it tells me, please fill out this field. It tells me the first error that I have. So if I go ahead and maybe I'll go ahead and type something, and it says I need an @ in the email address. So now now I'm going to meet that condition. Now it's saying it's continuing to give me this information. Now it wouldn't do that if I had started doing the fields correctly. It wouldn't stop the user as they go along. But I hit submit. Excuse me. I hit submit when it was still wrong. Excuse me. Excuse me. So then it continued to help me or tried to help me until I got it fixed. So that's what I have now. Excuse me, my first name, my last name, and notice that it's fixing as I'm going through. It's allowing me to see that the boxes are no longer invalid or the input is no longer invalid. And 5400 West Bradley Avenue. Let's try submitting now. And now it's telling me again the first invalid field or the first invalid input coming up. So whoops. Let's change that to Champagne. And well, let's try doing that wrong. Let's try typing in. Oh no, it's going to try typing in the entire Illinois, and it gives me an error. Anybody know why? Let's go back and look at our code and check it out. So down here in the state, it has this this input for the state has all the things that I expect, including required, and it has a placeholder telling me how to do it, but it also has the max length set here at 2. That means I can't. The user won't be able to input more than 2 characters. So I'll do that. Let's try doing a lot of characters there. It allows me it allows me on the zip code to go ahead and type a lot of characters, but let's see what happens when I try to submit it. Of course, it tells me that I'm having that I have an issue there. So what we'll learn to do soon is to set that so we actually have a range of characters that we'll accept, of number of characters that we'll accept, just like in the Illinois. But even so, let's try doing it correctly. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to come back up here and say 61821, and let's try doing this. Actually, let's not dash it. Let's do that. And now it meets the 9 digits, but it's not the correct format. But if I put the dash in there and submit it, then it goes on and it says that it's okay because it's expecting to have a dash there, 5 characters, and optionally a dash and 4 characters. So these are regular expressions. They're super useful. This is about all we're going to see of them this semester, but they're super useful, and you may have seen them in other programming languages, and we'll just know that they're out there, and they're something that you could use. So just remember regular expressions. Okay. Looks like the phone number wasn't required, so it's letting me pass that one. Also, the order type wasn't required, so I'm moving past that. So you know what? Now that I look at this, it doesn't really make any sense for number of single tickets to be required, because if above I chose something else that's not single tickets, then I shouldn't have to complete that. On the other hand, at this point, I can go ahead and type in a 0 and probably get by with it. I did, so it accepted that because nothing else is required. But I might want to change that for the users because it doesn't really make any sense for number of single tickets to be required. So I'm going to come back, I think, over here in my HTML and change this number of tickets to not be required. Just deleting that required attribute there. Save it, refresh it, and then of course I'll have to go through and try again. So continue to test this and see how it works, see if it works for you. See if all of your validation works and all of your requirements work and so on and so forth. So look at this, enjoy it, play with your forms, test it in different browsers. And let's see, and run it through a validator, of course. Make sure that it all works and it doesn't give you any errors. And at the same time, I'm sorry. So this, I failed to show you or failed to mention, when this is all completed and you hit submit, the form should open up another HTML because up when you created this form or when this form was created, there is an action attribute that says this is what will happen when the form is submitted correctly. So it meets all of the validation. So this is the action that's going to happen. And then the user hits the submit button and this action is going to happen. So sometimes that's opening an HTML, sometimes that's running a PHP script, sometimes that's doing something entirely different. But at this point in this class, we're really just going to open an HTML. And remember that when I click the reset button, it's just going to reset all of the fields back to their defaults. So that's basically forms in a nutshell, and enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions.